Every once in a while over the past 45 years, we've seen a few leaders who rise above the politics, the rivalries that sometimes divide us, the things that keep us apart, and they have done so much. People like Ibrahim Ghada Talhami, Samir Odeh, Salama Ziyad, Mahmoud Naji, and Walid Ali. These are just some of those. These are people that went out and fought for us 120, 150%. Great leaders going back 40 years, 45 years. They shine like bright lights in the darkness of depression and victimization, things that we have to deal with in this country sometimes. They rise above the discord to make a real difference for our community. And now we add another name, unfortunately, a great leader to that list, Miriam Zayed. If these people had been of any other religion, any other ethnicity, any other nationality, they would have been celebrated as heroes in this country. Society would have hailed them. They would have been praised by the mainstream news media. Buildings would have been named after them. Major streets would have been named after them. Schools would have been renamed in their honor. Because that's what this society does for everybody except for us, Arab Americans. And that's why great people like Ghada Talhami, Odeh, Naji, Ziyad, Walid Ali, and now Miriam Zayed had to spend their lives, dedicate their lives to fight for us, to make sure that we got a piece of what we deserved. I know Samir Odeh had a section of 63rd Street between Troy and Kedzie named in his honor in 1996. It's not there anymore. And yet, you go around the city of Chicago and you look around and you see these streets and buildings named after other people, including people that have oppressed us, people that have punished us, and people that have isolated us. And they get recognized in this society. The other thing about all those people were, these Arab leaders, they were Arab. You asked them what they were Arab. They didn't say Palestinian, they didn't say Jordanian, they didn't say Syrian, Lebanese, Egyptian, Muslim, Christian. We're all the same. They always said Arab, and we always stood together. Today it's a little tougher. And they never gave up on that fight against the greatest injustice for all the Arab people, the Palestinians. They fought. And we continue to struggle even today. We're vilified, we're demonized. They even passed laws in this country. They passed laws in the state. They passed laws in 25 other American states. And now they're passing a law in Congress that says we do not have a right to criticize a foreign country that takes nearly $5 billion a year from our tax dollars. I can't boycott a foreign country even though I put my life on the line and served during the Vietnam War. And in our Arab community, we had a large number of members who served during World War I, World War II, who served during the Korean War, who served during the Vietnam War. They even served reluctantly, but they served our country during the wars in the 1990s. And yet they say that we don't have a right to criticize a foreign country. Last October, we lost Miriam. It was a loss not just for Palestinians, but for every Arab American. The sad truth is that when Americans look at us, they don't see Muslim, they don't see Christian, they don't see Palestinian, they don't see Lebanese, they don't see Jordanian, they see us. And in their mind, the way we've been portrayed, they see us in a negative way. Miriam was one of those people that worked so hard, knowing that all these things she had to fight for, she still did it. It doesn't matter that we're businessmen, women, taxpayers, fathers, mothers, patriots who served this country with honor and with sacrifice. All of them knew they were making a sacrifice by speaking out on behalf of Arabs and Palestinians. Miriam Zayed was a woman. She was a wife. She was a mother. She was a grandmother. She was an aunt. She was a businesswoman. She was a teacher. She never once complained about the struggles or the fight our community faced every day. She just got up and she would organize. She'd go to meetings. I remember meeting her in the 90s. I ran for office in the 1990s for state rep, really to learn how terrible it was to be in politics. And then I went and opened up my political consulting business. I let everybody else run. I don't run anymore. But in 1994, we noticed that in the largest concentration of Arabs in the country, which is this area, Arabs, in District 230, Arabs were 10% of the school population, and yet we were 90% of the expulsions. 90% of the kids that were being kicked out of Sandburg, Stagg, and Andrew High School were Arab kids, 90%. And you know what happens when they kick you out of the school? Your family has to leave with them. If you want to go back to a public school, you had to move out of the neighborhood and you had to move into another community. You couldn't go back to that school. 90% were Arab, and they were 10% of the school population. We looked around and they said, "Ray, run for school district 230. I said, "No, I'm not an educator." And we talked and we said, "Hey, Miriam Zayed, she's a teacher. She has all that experience. Let's see if she would run." And she didn't hesitate. She ran. She was one of the best candidates running for that school board that year. And we did it, she lost, and we did it a second year. And none of her literature talked about her being Arab. She was an American first who loved being Arab, who loved being Palestinian, who loved being Muslim. And I'll tell you what, even though I'm not Muslim, I'm Muslim by culture. That's the way we are, one community. So she was a pioneer in our community. And I don't think that somebody like that, we won't forget people like that if we talk about them, if we share. How many people knew Ibrahim Abu-Lughod? Raise your hand. I'm telling you, those numbers are dwindling. He was a great man. He was a great leader. He's the guy who grabbed me from school and said, "Ray, I need you to speak on behalf of the Arabs." And I said, I didn't even graduate from school yet. He said, "I don't care. Your English is so perfect. Get up there and speak." The next thing I know, I was on TV debating Abba Eban. And Abba Eban was saying, "Oh, we're not going to, you Palestinians, you're extremists, you're violent, you want to take this. I'm Jewish and I live in Israel and my family is living in Israel, and we can't have two states because the Benelux system doesn't work." And this was on national TV, and I said, "I don't care about the Benelux system. I don't care about anything. Your name, your real name was Aubrey Solomon. You were born in South Africa. You went to Israel where my father was born in Jerusalem, and where his father and all his ancestors go back 300, 400, maybe 2,000 years. I said, in fact, you took the name Abba Eban because your name wasn't really Hebrew. I said, my name was Hananiah, and Hananiah is a Hebrew word, and we converted, and we should have a right to live there." And he looked at me like he was in shock, like he was dazed. But I wasn't talking to him. I was talking to the American people. I was talking to them because I wanted them to know, why is it that this guy can go and take our home and nobody would care in this country, this Christian country, this Christian-dominated country? They wouldn't stand up for other Christians like me. And Miriam was like that. She understood how important messaging is, not to talk to ourselves, but to talk to the American people, to educate them. When we lost Miriam Zayed, we lost big. We lost her shadow towers. It was an honor to know her, and I know it was an honor for all of us to know her. And I'm not trying to build her up into some saint, but I'm going to tell you what. When you stand on the front line to fight for the rights of Arabs, when you stand up on the front lines to fight for the rights of Palestinians, you might as well give up any future in this country, because the price you have to pay is one of being bullied, of being demonized, of being marginalized, of being denied jobs. I could only go so high at the Sun-Times. It was only so far. They hated the fact. They thought I was Italian when they hired me. When they found out I was Arab, it was bad, but when it's Palestinian, it was worse. It was worse. And I'll tell you what, she would have been a great teacher. She should have been the state education leader. But because she was an Arab, she had to fight just to be equal to everybody else. And that fight is what paved the way for all of the young people in our community who should be here. I think this is a tremendous turnout, and I'm grateful, and I know that Miriam Zayed's family is grateful. We have a lot. That Zayed family is one of the most important families in our community. I'll tell you what, how about an applause, because they are so active. They are always there, teachers, activists, and they're very proud. We have a nice program. I'm going to introduce the president of the Arab American Democratic Club, who, I'll tell you what, this is another guy, dedicates his whole life to the Arab community. Sometimes we get 400 or 500 people, sometimes we get 50. And yet, despite all that, he doesn't care, because he knows at the end of the road, the issue is what's important. We deserve to be treated equal like everybody else. Samir Khalil.
Thank you, Ray, for the time you spent. Let me put my glasses on so I can see better. For the time you spent supporting our community and our events. Your work for the last 40 years has given a voice to our community that would not have surfaced without your efforts. Thank you, Ray. Assalamu alaikum. May I ask you all to stand for a moment of silence. Thank you. For Rifat, the husband of Miriam Zayed, and the sons, Bilal and Haytham, and the daughters, Khawla and Lena, family and friends, you're welcome, and thank you for coming here today. Good morning to all. Working with Miriam, not only with AADC, but many organizations, I was blessed to know and have shared precious times working with Miriam. Working with Miriam was empathetic and was able to put herself in other people's shoes, was never about me and I. She never lost the ability to ask questions, made sure everyone's concerns were listened to and understood. Then she would move on. Her ability to initiate change as a voice, as an imam daughter, a mother, a wife, and as a teacher, she taught us all and realized how that no one intimidate us unless we allow it. To her, humanity and fairness are not negotiable. Miriam was a helpful human organizer, activist, and charitable in nature. Always a giver, never a taker. Respectful, kind, and very strong, personality. Always brightens up a room with her beautiful smile and charismatic presence. And those of you who are here today would feel the room here. She's here. She will tell you what's on her mind, not shy, but with utmost respect, very convincing, with effective results. Miriam will be the first to come to your aid and stand with you as an important ally and sincere friend. If she's on your side, you are definitely a winner, and a sincere friend always you can count on. As a wife, teacher, accountant, activist, organizer, a mother, success was her goal. Failure is not an option. She would not allow it. As an AADC board member and a treasurer, she was a leader who was instrumental in building a strong, viable community to be reckoned with, encouraging, financing, and supporting qualified candidates to run for elected offices. Over the years, with Miriam's involvement, Arab American-Democratic Club helped dozens candidates get elected locally and nationally, and hosted over 1,000 elected officials and candidates. Most recently, she was instrumental in helping Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar get elected to Congress. Miriam's dream is working together as a united community, not just a word we always talk about among ourselves. Yeah, we're going to be united and all that. It's not just a word to her. To her, unity that she's talking about with ingredients such as economic, social, political, media, and building bridges with others to create understanding and empowerment. Real empowerment, together. Only then we can achieve and accomplish our goals. Miriam was a gift and a treasure to our community and to us all. We were privileged to serve with her. Our community has been impacted by her presence, her words, her actions, her leadership, and the sacrifices she made day after day. Miriam is sorely missed and long remembered as a role model. Not only a Palestinian Arab Muslim woman, but for all community members and the fabric of all America that created America and the world we live in, regardless of gender and religious affiliation. Miriam, may you rest in peace, and God bless you. Thank you.
Now I want to invite, this guy, he's Miriam Zayed's second favorite comedian, okay? I don't need to tell you who the first is. He shoveled his way all the way here from Dearborn, and through 58 inches of snow, through this polar vortex. Several of our speakers couldn't be here actually because the weather was so terrible, but this guy, you can't stop him from being here. Miriam loved him. Amr, we love you. Amr Zahar.
I want to start by apologizing. I'm going to have to rush out of here back to Detroit. I was in New York City last night, and these 10 a.m. luncheons. When Miriam first invited me to one of these things a few years ago, she said, we have a brunch at 10 a.m. on a Sunday. I said, find somebody else. I said, no one's gonna come. You can't get Arabs to show up on time in the evening. How's it gonna work in the morning? And there's something about her, somebody this morning said to me that Miriam is the only person that could get you to come to these things at 10 a.m. in the morning. And that's true. And today it's true too. I actually have had a pretty long history with, I went to college with Haytham. And he reminded me today that Palestinians, we organize, it's in our blood. Something about us makes us find each other. In 1995, I was a freshman at the University of Michigan. And we didn't have, now I'm sounding like my fathers. We didn't have Google, we didn't have any of those things. We had this directory, this old ancient directory that you could look at on the university internet system. And what I did is I wanted to find the Arabs. And I started just typing in Arabic names. Rima, Ahmed, Marwan, some more Palestinian names, Nidal, Kifah, Jihad, Hurriya, Irtifa. And something maybe got me to type in Haytham, a few different spellings, and I found Haytham. And I emailed all these people, I said, we have to have a meeting. And we had a meeting, we got together, and we started an Arab organization at the University of Michigan. This is 24 years ago. There's something about us. In October, when we all heard about this, when I heard about it, I was in Detroit, and I was angry. I was angry. But only for about a couple hours. Because I started to remember how much joy she brought to us. Miriam was like any other Palestinian, brilliant, passionate, warm, defiant, principled. I would get invited to these luncheons every year with these politicians, and Miriam would send me an email, always nice, very formal, even though I've known her for 20 years, very nice. Hi, this is Miriam Zayed. And she would invite me to these things, and when I would walk in that door, and there used to be another facility too, Samir and Miriam would come up to me and they would say, be nice to the politicians today, take it easy. They would say that together, and then I would say, okay, sure, no problem. And then I'd walk a little further, and Miriam would catch up to me and say whatever you want. Sorry, I must have made that sort of sense. She knew that doing politics in America was not about going with the flow. It wasn't about trying to fit in. It was about challenging people when you needed to. It was about being that voice, that principled voice for all of us. And so when I think about her, I think about two things. The first thing is support. She supported all of us. We can all only hope one day when we depart this world, there's a couple hundred people on a Sunday morning. She supported all of us. She supported me. I didn't choose a very traditional path for myself in life. I went to law school so my mom can tell people I'm a lawyer, but I became a comedian. And Miriam supported me. She said, come do this event every year. Of course, I did it for the Miriam deal, which is nothing, in case you're wondering. No. But I came to this thing because I realized how important the work that she was doing, because she supported us. And so we had to support her. She would write me these emails every year. And I pretended like I didn't care. I pretended, but the truth is I was eagerly waiting this email every year to show up at 10 a.m. on a Sunday morning in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. And she would send me this email, and I'd get the email, and I would, I'd wait like a day to reply because I would pretend like it wasn't that important to me, But I always came. I remember the email she wrote to me about a year ago, where she said, we want you to come, we want you to talk, and we want Amr the comedian, and we want Amr the community activist too. She understood what I was trying to do more than a lot of other people. And that was something that was so very special. That support is something that we Palestinians have for each other. There's something about us that I don't think anybody could ever understand. The desire we have to walk up to each other. What city are you from? What village are you from? Please tell me. Tell me your story. What's your grandmother's name? Give me a hug. We have this connection with people, with each other, through a struggle. A just, principled struggle that she was a part of. It's something that nobody will ever understand. But she did. And she harnessed it. And she never, in this country, when you are trying to work in politics or activism, especially with the systems that exist, it's very easy. And unfortunately, we see it in the Arab American community all the time. It's very easy to shy away from your culture, to shy away from your heritage, and to say, let's just be involved, but let's not talk too much about Palestine. Let's be involved, but let's not talk too much about... That wasn't her. She was out there loudly supporting us all the time. And the second thing I remember about her, this love that emanated from her all the time. You could feel it. You could feel it. Come in the room. How tall was it? It's this tall. Come in the room. You felt it. Something from this small little body. Filled up everything with love. I went back and looked at some of the emails as I was on the plane this morning. I came from New York this morning. I was on the plane this morning. And I said, let me look through some of the emails she wrote me. I saw all these emails. And I'm sure I remembered at the time, but I started to realize every email she wrote me, she always ended it with, love, Miriam. I'm not her kid. Love, with love, much love. That's the kind of love that now that she has shown it to us, we are now required to show it to everybody else. We are now required to take that energy, that love, and take it out into the world. What she did was a beginning. It's an example. Are you all with me? Yes. This is not a sad day. This is a day for us to take that love, to take that support, and take it out into the world. We are closer than ever today to making Palestine at the core of American politics because of the love and support that she has shown us over the years. And so that's what we have to do when we leave here today. We have to make sure that as we go out into the world, and I know you all are here because you are activists, but each one of you too is a Miriam Zayed. There are people who look up to each one of you in the community. We're all here today because we're active in our community. But there's 10, 20 other people in your family or friends that you know that look up to you. And it's your job to take the example that Miriam set for all of us and carry that forward with that love and that support. And it's so important that we take that out of that room here today and every day. So I'm not walking out of this room today sad. I'm walking out of this room happy, with my head held very high, as an Arab American, as a Palestinian American, because of Miriam Zayed and the support and the love that she showed all of us. Miriam, we love you very much. Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Thank you, Amar. I want to do a few acknowledgments for some of the people who volunteered. And it's not a political event today, but we do have some political candidates. Shaden Malik, who is running for the Moraine Valley Community College. Shaden, stand up. And Carol Ruzich, out there at Orland Park trustee. Thank you for coming, Carol. Ken Getty, representing Lions. So if I missed anybody, I apologize. Former Mayor Goodyear from Worth. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Thank you. Thank you for coming. That was the one thing that Miriam knew how to do, bring out the politicians. Because in the 1970s, no politician would come to any of our events. If one of them showed up, it would be over. Their career would be done. So today it's a different story, and we owe it to a lot of you for being here, and a lot of you for coming out. Right now I'd like to invite we had invited Jim Zogby, but because of all the schedule conflicts he had, Jim was a great guy. Jim Zogby from the Arab American Institute in Washington worked so closely with Miriam, wanted to be here, he couldn't be here. But we have the better speaker, Maya Berry, who's the executive director. So Maya, please come up and say that. Thank you.
I'm going to try to keep it together because I'm all about like super cold and not warm in any way publicly. So, Miriam Zayed was incredible, and I thought to myself, what am I going to come and say to you today that you don't already know about her, as her family, as her friends, as her colleagues all these years, and then I thought, you know. I'll apologize in advance because it has to be sort of a little personal in nature, otherwise I'm sharing stories that you already know. But the truth is, Miriam Zayed is one of my heroes. I met her through Jim Zogby, who, by the way, is overseas, and it's the only reason that he is not here today. He very much wanted to be here and fought me on this one, and I honestly feel like I won. So I'm grateful that I get to be here to talk about someone that I so much respected and appreciated. He tells a story, and I don't want to raise any tensions in the room, but whatever happened with the Democratic Club at some point, and Jim always would tell me that when I was, asked to leave, it was Miriam who came back and said, it's time to fix everything and bring it all back together. And that's what he always remembered about Miriam, that it was this broader sense of these things are bigger than us and we have to do better. She was a tireless advocate, and excuse me for being so honest about this, lots of people work hard, but not everybody works smart. She was a tireless and effective advocate. She understood both what she was rooted in and what she needed to accomplish in a way that was incredible to watch. She's a member of our National Policy Council, which is a group of about 110 of our national leaders, and we convene them monthly for these calls, where we talk about substantive issues, anything from Palestine to what's happening on election reform and voter intimidation. Miriam never missed a monthly call. It's time for roll call, Miriam here, that's it. She, Gibran Gala that we host every year in the spirit of humanity, Miriam missed one gala that I know of. And I was going through the list before the event, and I noticed that Miriam wasn't there. And I said, what's going on here? I picked up the phone, and boy, did I get an earful. Because we made the mistake of scheduling the gala before tax day, which meant that Miriam couldn't come. 100% guarantee you it never happened again. I never, ever scheduled the Gibran Gala with 600 guests in Washington before tax day. And that was Miriam. And to her credit, by the way, when she didn't come, she still made the contribution and said, send someone in my behalf. Find a young person, let me sponsor them. I didn't ask, it's just what she did. That's who she was. The way that she conducted herself, Amr was right when he talked about love. She was hilarious and incredibly joyful. I got to see her, the last time I saw Miriam was actually a month before she passed, because in September we hosted our annual summit. But instead of doing it in Washington, we decided to take it on the road. So we did one in Detroit and one in Atlanta. So she picked up the phone and said, well, what are you doing? And I explained to her, she's like, okay, I think I'll come to Detroit, it's close enough. Miriam, please come, that'll be great. Okay. So Miriam, of course, comes. And she brought her niece with her. So if you're here, I gotta make sure to say hello before you leave. Granddaughter. And of course we did the substance, right? We know how to do the substance, we know how to do the policy. But the night before the summit convened, we were at El Amir in Detroit, and if you don't know it, please come and enjoy the food. This big table, all of us hanging out, and my conversation was mostly on this side, and Miriam was on that side, But then at one point I heard her just burst out into laughter, and I turned over to see Miriam laughing, and it was like, what's so funny? And she's like, oh, I'll tell you later. I didn't get to talk to her about what was so funny. But one of my colleagues was part of that conversation. And the part that she was laughing at, because this is how she was able to both approach the substance and life. It was a very serious conversation about Palestinians living under Israeli occupation. She was sharing it with the head of an organization that was our co-sponsor at the event. So this was sort of a new thing to them. They work primarily on civil rights and civil liberties. The occupation is just not part of the conversation that they have. And why the laughter you get? Because after finishing the substance, after explaining decades worth of occupation and brutality, she found a way to tell a joke about something that had happened at the wall involving an Israeli soldier. Because that was Miriam. And everybody at her end of the table laughed out loud with her. Because that's what you do to get people to understand your own humanity. In addition to not taking herself too seriously, she understood the way to connect with others, and it was an extraordinary thing. Every time for this event, she'd want Jim to come, or Samir would want Jim to come, somebody would call Jim to come. I'm not kidding you. I'd get a secret call from Miriam that'd say, yeah, we want Jim to come, but actually you should come. And it was the way she believed in my own leadership, the way she pushed was very much a key part of who she was as a person, and it's an extraordinary thing. I mentioned the Khalil Gibran Humanity Awards. It's something that we established back in the 90s to honor, it's called the Spirit of Humanity, and it's named after the poet Khalil Gibran. And we don't honor Arab Americans. It's designed to be an award to celebrate the best of what the world has provided us with. And we do it every year. And as I said, she'd never missed any, except that one. And this year, we're doing something we've never done before, which is that we're honoring Miriam Zayed with the Najib Halabi Award. That's the one award dedicated to an Arab American who, in their public service, engaged with their work with ethnic pride and celebrated who they were. So, if you don't know, Najib Halabi served in the Kennedy administration as the head of the FAA, and then went on to head up Pan Am Airlines, and is an important icon in U.S. history. This award's gone to members of Congress and all kinds of, traditionally very important people. I don't mean to diminish them, but important people in that regard. And I gotta tell you, I'm incredibly excited about the ability to honor Miriam's work and service in this way, because I think it elevates what this award is about in a very meaningful way. And we're very proud that we're able to do that this year. I wanted to Amr sort of stole it with love, but he's right, because I honestly I'm too old to have been her daughter, but she treated me like her daughter. And it was about that piece of it that's incredible. So I wanted to close today similar to kind of how Amr did, which is to remember that incredible spirit when you're feeling most down, because she had a way of doing that, helping all of us in this process while fighting like hell for everything she believed in. Because that's the point I want to make. I'm not here talking about someone who was nice all the time. I'm talking about someone who was effective all the time. So she fought hard when that was necessary, and she did it with a smile, and she did it the way she needed to do it. I want to share with you, because this is something that I actually thought of, Palestinian legislature and poet Tawfiq Ziyad, who you all know, I don't need to tell you who that is, but he had a poem called All I Have. He was actually someone else who was taken too early, right? We lost her too early in that regard. But I just want to share with you this line from this poem. He starts about, I never carried a rifle on my shoulder or pulled a trigger. All I have is a flute's melody, a brush to paint my dreams, a bottle of ink. All I have is unshakable faith and infinite love for my people in pain. Now, Amr and I didn't coordinate. I hadn't seen him in months. Infinite love is what made me think of Miriam when I saw this poem. And I am so grateful for having been one of her people.
Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you're all her people, and I hope that we get to be together in May. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you very much. Again, it's not a political event, but I want to acknowledge two other people. Appellate Court Judge Reyes is here. Thank you, Judge. We also have Abdul Nasser Rashid, who ran for the Cook County Board. Thank you, Abdul Nasser. And perfect timing. You know, Tawfiq Zayed, my first two interviews as a journalist, Mayor Richard J. Daley, and then Tawfiq Zayed at Ghada Talhami's house up on the north side. One of the most phenomenal interviews I ever did. His quote, that discrimination was policy, practice, and reality where he lived. And I never forgot that headline. Let me invite our next speaker up, and we appreciate his taking the time to come out here. Former Governor of Illinois, Pat Quinn.
Well, it's an honor to be here. It's a very special moment, I think, for us to remember and never forget. And I've come here on many occasions for the Arab American-Democratic Club, and Miriam was with us at that time. And I think the thing that I remember most about her is her willingness to bring people together to organize in the best traditions of American democracy. You know, democracy is a gift, a divine gift, a gift from God. And our country was the very first country on earth to have a democracy. We told King George in England, enough is enough. He was on the throne for 59 years, and we didn't want to have a monarchy anymore. We wanted to have something where the people, from the grassroots up, had their voice to be heard. And that's always what struck me about Miriam. She understood the importance to give voice to those who didn't have a voice in policy, to make sure that those who were affected by a particular policy were listened to. And that's why all of us are here today, because we honor her memory. We thank God for sending her our way. And we also understand that it's our duty to carry on, to take the lessons that she taught us in her years here. I wish they were longer chronologically, but God gave Miriam a purposeful life, a life that helped others. She believed in the ethic of service, that service to others is the rent we pay for our place on God's earth. And Miriam more than paid her rent in service. She was selfless. She wasn't selfish in any way. She was a generous person who gave of herself. And you know, there's a third verse of the song America the Beautiful. We all know the first verse, sing it from the time we're in school to this very day. But I was recently at our church, and they sang the third verse of America the Beautiful. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. And I think that sums up what Miriam stood for in her purposeful life. She never ever thought of herself first. She thought of the community, of other people. She understood that ethic of service, of giving to others. And it's really important that we teach our children those fundamental lessons of life. It's very important to understand that heroes in our society, they're really very important. But sometimes, you know, the word hero is bandied about in kind of a careless way. If you make a free throw, you win the game, you're the next day's hero. You hit a home run, you're a hero. If you are an outrageous rock star or whatever, you're a role model. Those really aren't the true heroes of our time and of our society. People like Miriam are the heroes, in my opinion. They're the ones who set the pace, that give us a vision, that show us what can be, not just what is. She never accepted what is. She understood that we ought to have a vision that makes things better. for the community at large, for the world at large. And I think it's important that we are gathered here today in her memory. We ask God to bless her immortal soul. We love you, Miriam, and we always will. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Now I'd like to, I'd love to invite the entire Zayed family up here on stage, but we'd have nobody in the audience left. So I'm going to invite her daughter, Miriam Zayed's daughter, Lena Hussein, if she'll come and speak on behalf of the family. And then afterwards, we have a special presentation, an award that we've created in Miriam's name so that every year we will remember your mother. Thank you, Lena.
So, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of my family, I would like to thank AADC for hosting this event. I did much better at her funeral than today, so to honor my mother's memory, I'd also like to start off by thanking everyone for the tremendous support we have been given. We understand we are not the only ones in this room that have lost loved ones. May God have mercy on all their souls, and may they find peace, inshallah. We are here today not to memorialize my mother. We are here to celebrate all her accomplishments and remember what her purpose on this life was so we can carry on the torch to better our community. Someone told me recently that on a person's headstone is a beginning date and an end date, but the dash in the middle is where the true story is told. Alhamdulillah, my mom's dash is what movies are made of. For as long as I can remember, my mom was interested in politics, but for her love for politics also went along with her love for both of her countries, the United States of America and Palestine. The two went hand in hand, and my mother wanted, I changed this after Ray mentioned it. I said the Palestinian people, but he was right. It's the Arab people, to have a voice in this country. Being born and raised in Chicago, she was given an opportunity to attend Chicago State University. She persuaded her parents to let her go. However, there was one stipulation. In order for her to attend college, her mother had to go with her every day. My grandmother waited outside her classes and accompanied her to and from school. My mom had such a thirst for knowledge, and she did whatever she needed to do to become educated. She learned to drive at a time when it was unheard of for females to do such a thing in the Arab community. My grandfather taught my mom a sense of community. My grandmother and grandfather, Allah yarhamhum, raised her to be truly their right hand. My grandfather was the first imam we had here in the Chicagoland and greater surrounding areas. Along his side, he always brought my mom to be his personal driver and confidant. She learned and observed the way that my grandfather dealt with the community and learned how to be an advocate for them. My grandparents always took my mother for advice, and she always had their ear in matters. When speaking to her siblings, they said that my mother was just that person. She was a person that they went to for anything and everything. They always listened to her even when they didn't really want to. They knew even at a young age that she knew best and would never guide them down the wrong path. As people in the community saw my mom next to my grandfather, it was a natural handing over the baton for the community to start looking towards my mother to help the Arab community progress and integrate in the American society. My mother's success is stemmed from my father and grandmother Siti Zahia's support. My grandmother Siti Zahia, Allah yarhamha, lived with my parents and was an instrumental part in raising my siblings and myself. My mom was a hard worker, being a teacher, an accountant, and above all, a mother. She was an extremely involved parent, enrolling us in whichever activity we were interested in. She was also instrumental in taking us to protests. We would follow her lead and chant as the crowd did. She taught us at a young age that we too had a voice. Without a husband like my dad and a grandmother like mine, my mother wouldn't be who she was. While my mom was out doing wonderful things, it was my grandmother who held down the fort and raised us and took care of us, in some aspects better than my mom would. With no disrespect to my mother, those of us who have children can relate to the statement because there is no love like a grandmother's love, and we were fortunate to have my mother and my grandmother. The meetings, events, organizations she was part of were due to my mom having a village behind her that helped raise my siblings and I so she could become the Miriam Zayed that we all love and know. My mom's generosity was what made her who she was. When it came to teaching her students in the Inglewood neighborhood, it was purchasing school supplies and clothing for her students in need. It was taking them on field trips that she designed to show them what government was like, setting up meet and greets with public officials at the State of Illinois building. When it came to her income tax clients, it was not only her charging little to nothing for some clients, but truly getting to know all the individuals and families that it came across our doorstep. She treated everyone like family, and her clients embraced her. My mother was able to show our wonderful culture due to the fact that the majority of her clients were not Arab. She was a wonderful model of what an Arab American truly is. For as long as I can remember, my mom was involved with AADC. I would like to thank Jim Zogby for pushing my mom to get further involved in state and national politics. With his help, she was able to meet Presidents Clinton and Obama. To follow in her footsteps, we need to unite as a community, one voice, one heartbeat, in order to make a difference. We need to be involved in local, state, and national elections. We can no longer sit back and accept the way things are. We need to make a difference, and the difference is by continuing to educate our community. We need to continue to empower ourselves and our community. The companions of the prophet said when they spoke to the prophet, they felt like they were the most important person to him. SubhanAllah, that was true for my mom. Everyone that came into her life, she treated them as if they were the most important people to her, and they truly were. Whether you came over for taxes, needed help filling out college forms for your children, needed someone to call Social Security because you couldn't understand what they were asking for. You received a letter in the mail that you just needed someone to read and translate. That was my mom, and that's why there will never be anyone like her again. She helped everyone, from undocumented immigrants to people who didn't speak either of the languages she knew. Her door was literally open, and all I would hear from her when I tell her, Mom, you do the most random things. Why do you do it? Why do you help anyone and everyone? She would just tell me because I enjoy it. I love helping people, and people always ask me for help, so I try to do what I can. And that's who Miriam Zayed was. When people hear her name, not everyone has met her personally, but they know the name. She was in some aspects an Arab celebrity. She wore so many hats, and that her actions and deeds can never be replicated because she was selfless, and she gave all of herself to everyone and anyone. We need to step up as a community because with her death comes a gigantic hole that we as a community need to fill in. We need to open our doors and help others without looking for something in return. We need to listen and be there for others when they need us to start filling in the hole my mother has left. The more I thought about what made Miriam Zayed, and how we can live up to her name and expectations and lead how she led, I'm not sure that we can. Because with all due respect, we are all too selfish. Not in a bad way. We have our families, our extended families, our friends, our jobs. We have a lot to do and take care of. That's just the way the world works. But my mom was selfless. She gave all of herself to everyone and everything. I know my siblings and I wish she had just been a little more selfish so we can have some more of her to ourselves, but that's not what God's purpose for her was. She would always say that this world is temporary, and she wanted to enjoy as much of it as she could. But materialistic things didn't matter to her because she knew she couldn't take anything with her to the next life. And that's what she did. She gave all of herself, time, and money to anyone in need. She was meant for everyone to love, and she was meant to help anyone and everyone. And that's why God blessed her what this life has to offer. And I ask God to please forgive her for all her sins. By no means was she perfect, and like all of us, she had imperfections. But I ask Allah to please have mercy on her soul and to look at all of her wonderful deeds that she accomplished, because she deserves heaven. And inshallah, Allah will show mercy on her soul. Thank you again for your continued love and support. On behalf of the Zayed family, I'd like to thank you for being here to honor my mother today. Allah yarhamha. And these recipients of these awards are truly deserving, and it's an honor for me to present the awards to them. They meant a lot to my mom, and my mom would be honored to be mentioned along with them. Thank you.
Stay up here, and we're gonna. Roy Shalaby, also, are you still with the Chicago Park District? Ah, all right, but that's okay. Do you think Mayor Emanuel will let us rename Grant Park Miriam Zayed Park? Probably not. All right. Lena, I'm going to ask just a couple of our board members to come up from the Arab American Democratic Club. Samir, Adam, Rima, Sway, Saad Mali. If you guys would just come up, we want to do a presentation We have 3 awards. Malik Ali was going to be here, but his schedule changed, and he couldn't be here, but let's get some of the board members up. I mean, let me go through all the people that made this possible, too. Shareem Isbatan, our DJ. Aaron Hanania doing the video. Thank you, Aaron. Rima Swais, Saad Mali, Khalil, Ahmed Ramahi, Sonia Khalil, Sultan Shaltaf, Hani Abdullah, Dr. Ahmed Ramaha, Muhammad Abdullah, Sammy Studio, Fatima Khalil, and Simi and Cynthia Vihalia. I'd like to ask Ghada Talhami if she could come up here also for our first award. I remember in 1976, with the Arab American Congress for Palestine, we wanted to come up with an award, and the first award recipient was going to be Ayub Talhami. And he grabbed me by the arm, he took me out into the hallway, and he yelled at me for 15 minutes. We don't want awards, we don't want to do this, why could you do this? He was a tough guy, he was dedicated to the cause forever. But I'm glad today that we can present some awards, because these awards will keep the name of Miriam Zayed alive for a long time to come. At every one of our meetings of the Arab American Democratic Club, we will present awards to individuals who lead the community in the spirit of Miriam Zayed. And that's what this award to Ghada Talhami is all about. Ghada, thank you for all that you do.
Thank you so much, really. It's like meeting family. You're all family to us, and it's wonderful. And thank you for remembering my husband. And I know he's with us today. He relished these occasions. And I think he relished to see women like Miriam Zayed. So Miriam Zayed was the object of our admiration for many, many, many years. Let me tell you why. I teach the politics of women in the third world. I teach Middle East politics, African politics. So this is really what I do for a living. And this is what you notice about the life of Miriam Zayed. I think Governor Quinn really understood that very well. Her life was about service. Miriam Zayed exemplified the essence and the spirit of Palestinian feminism. If you actually made an effort to study Palestinian feminism as an ideology and as history and as practice, you'll understand Miriam. She comes from that tradition. Commentators always said Palestinian feminism was about service. It was not about the patriarchy. It was not about the work of Gloria Steinem or Simone de Beauvoir. It was not about objecting to man's tyranny in the family. Why? For a very simple reason. Because Palestinian women understood that they also bear a responsibility for the liberation of their people as much as the men. They understood that from the 1920s. From the 1920s, women in my mother's generation who would wear the full face veil marched against the Balfour Declaration. This is really remarkable. And they continued with this all the way in 1948, and after 1948, they shone. Let me remind you of something very important. When I mention names like Issam Abdel Hadi, the head of the National Organization of Palestinian Women, when I mention names like Samiha Khalil, when I mention names like Hind al-Husseini, what comes to mind? Service. These women rolled up their sleeves and went to work after 1948, running orphanages. Remember Hind Husseini's first orphanage? It was dedicated to the children of the massacre of Deir Yassin, whom she encountered really running aimlessly in the streets of Jerusalem a day after the massacre. This is the life story of Hind al-Husseini, who really became almost a saint in Jerusalem. Samiha Khalil, I don't want to remind you about Samiha Khalil, with all her wonderful, wonderful institutions, with all her dedication to the dignity of Palestinian women, refusing to make them work in the Israeli sector, and instead making sure that they were trained so they could work with dignity from their own homes, because we all care about the dignity of Palestinian women. Let me tell you about Issam Abdel Hadi from my own hometown of Nablus. Assam Abdul Hadi attended the United Nations annual meeting in Nairobi in the 1970s. Right next to her was seated Nawal Saadawi, the Egyptian feminist, who's really a Western-style feminist at that time. I met her years later when she really understood the Palestinian issue much better. Well, Assam Abdul Hadi stood up and said to this all feminist gathering from all around the world, she said, for the Palestinians, please listen to this carefully. She said, for the Palestinians, the male is as much a victim as the female. We understand that as women. We understand the victimhood of the Palestinian male. So it's not about the patriarchy, like Gloria Steinem wants us to know. It is about our own history. And our own history told us that we have to work for the salvation of the men as much as for the women. And I want to tell you something else. Anytime you read a bit of something about Arab feminism, Muslim feminism, and how weak Muslim women were, don't ever believe a word of it. We say Palestinian women are powerful, but they lack legitimacy. And it is our struggle now to make sure that they get political legitimation. But they are powerful. I think all of the women in this room are an example of this. You are all powerful, you are all valuable. Miriam was in that mode. Miriam comes from United States. She probably inspired Rashida Tlaib. I think she probably did, her example. It's women like that who really shine, who come from the depth of our own community. Miriam Zayed did not come from a marginal section of the Palestinian American community. She comes from the essence of the Palestinian community. So that's why you all identify with her. That's why I identify with her. Because she's us and we are her. So we are really one and the same. And before I end, I just want to pay tribute to the American Democratic Club for recruiting Miriam Zayed, for giving her the opportunity to shine a light for all of us, to shine a light on Palestinian history, to shine a light on Palestinian American activism, which is going to continue. It's going to be continued by younger women and younger women and younger women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ghada. Thank you so much for the gift. Stay here. We want to present. Okay. We're going to move you over a little bit, all you guys, so we can get a picture. There you go. And Lena, Hussein, and the Zayed family are presenting this wonderful award.
In case you did not see the award, we etched Miriam's picture on the award,
Yeah,
and
it's very
hopefully
cool.
this will be on an annual basis. And who knows, one of you will be the recipient of this award sometime soon.
Thank you, Ghada. Malik Ali couldn't be here, so we'll make sure he gets his award. The next person we'd like to invite up is Nemer Ziyad with Ziyad Brothers Importing. Like Ghada, Nemer is always there when the community needs something. This guy never says no. And when the community needs help, Nemer is there to help us and to make sure that we have the assets and the resources to do what we need. And we felt that needed to be acknowledged. So thank you, Nemer.
Thank you, Ray. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, I guess. I'm really honored and humbled to accept the Miriam Zayed Award, Community Service Award on behalf of my family, Ziyad Brothers Importing. The name Miriam Zayed means so much to all of us because of the way she conducted her life. Her love for our community as Arabs, the love for her birth homeland, Palestine, her village of origin, Betunia, and her dedication to doing what is right. I spoke to Miriam many times, and she never asked anything of herself. She always asked for her people. She died on October 23rd, as we all know, but she will never be gone nor forgotten from our community. She will always be with us, inshallah. And I know that her sacrifices and selflessness will inspire many others in our community to strive to sacrifice for the betterment of our community. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart to the Arab American Democratic Club for doing and giving out these awards. You guys are always doing an amazing job. for all that you do, for all the hard work that Miriam has done and put into giving our Arab American community a strong voice. May she rest in peace. God bless her. God bless her family. Allah yarhamha, and thank you very much.
I want to bring up some of our final speakers. Always reminds me of a great person, Mahmoud Naji, Fedwa Naji, to come up and say a few words. Thank you, Fedwa.
It is a great privilege for me to be here today as we gather to celebrate the life of a great Palestinian American woman, Miriam Zayed. May God bless her soul. A loving and grateful community is here to say we will never forget Miriam. Her deeds and dedication towards her people and country, and we share with her family with her great loss. I am personally very touched by the presence of the prominent speakers and the attendees today. I am echoing everybody's words in a way here. Miriam was selfless in her efforts to protect and elevate her community against all odds. We still hear her voice resonate when speaking for the rights of her people and raising her voice against discrimination and injustice. Miriam charted her strategy from an early age, acquiring wisdom and earning love and respect from people of all walks of life, locally and nationally. Miriam was my close sister since 1964. She was الأخت التي لم تلدها لي أمي. She was my sister that my mother did not give birth to. Her name is synonymous with courage, dedication, humility, and love of life. An educator who raised a great family with her good husband, Mr. Rifat Zayed, and this family will follow in her giant footsteps. She was also a very good grandmother. I call her a grandmother on wheels. A chartered member of the Arabian American Ladies Society, she was instrumental in the establishment of the Moss Foundation in Bridgeview. A chartered member of the I'll repeat myself. Also, as a founding member of the Club of Batunia, she established the college scholarship program that the club now named in her name. She has been a faithful supporter of the United Holy Land Fund since its inception in 1968. She was very proud of her Palestinian roots and culture. I have fond memories that always bring a smile to my face of when Miriam was a student learning Arabic and the folkloric dance of Dabka. And she carried her culture with her throughout her life, and as many of us can recall. She proudly wore her Palestinian folklore clothing to most community, family, and social events. She was a great American patriot and an icon of the Arab American-Democratic Club. The AADC and the community are in unison that good human beings leave an everlasting legacy and lessons to follow. I will end up by saying, وسلام عليك يوم ولدت ويوم توفيت ويوم تبعثين حيا. May peace be upon you the day you were born and the day you died and when you rise to life again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Fedwa. Now I'd like to invite a great leader in our community representing AmVote, our judge, Bill Haddad. You know, when you say judge, you only have to say judge. Like when you say the boss, people knew Mayor Daley. You say the judge, we know they're talking about Bill Haddad. So. You're welcome.
Well, thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to talk about Miriam. I made some observations while everybody was talking, one of which is the fact that in this room, we have the leaders of every major organization in our community, from the Business Association, to the Bar, to the medical, to the engineering, to AmVote. All these organizations, all these leaders who may not always agree on a lot of things, I can assure you, agree on the legacy of Miriam. She was an outstanding leader. To me, personally, she was inspiring. I don't have a lot to say about her. I didn't follow her whole life. But the times I had to meet with her were inspiring times. Her sense of humor, her smile, her hug, her inspiration to me. When I was running for judge in 2003, 2004, she said, "How's it going?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going all over the county. I've got Cicero out in the north or south, and the alderman out north, and I'm running all over the place." And she looked up at me and she said, "Don't be discouraged. We're behind you." And the club actually had a fundraiser for me. I think you brought in Mike Madigan, and we had a great fundraiser right here, okay? So I only wanted a couple of minutes to say something about Miriam, to tell you how much I truly appreciated her unpretentious humility, her love and caring for our community, our whole community. I'm a Christian Arab, others are Muslim. We have all of us here for her today. Why? Because she was an inspiring woman. You know, I turned to Rohi during the speeches and I said, "My God, 68, she died young." He looked at me and he said, "With her activities, she had a double life. She lived twice as many years." And that is so true. That is so true. Her legacy stands above us all. God bless her and her family. My condolences to all of you. And thank you for giving me a couple of minutes to say a few words. Thank you.
So our Palestinian Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is going to present an award for Miriam Zayed in Congress in Washington. At the Arab American Institute. I thought if she was going to be presenting it in Congress, it would start a big controversy, be a big headline. She's going to be presenting the award at the Arab American Institute to the Miriam Zayed Award that'll be presented to her family. Right now, I'd like to invite attorney Vivian Califf to come up and offer some closing remarks. And again, I want to thank all of you for coming today. This really was about Miriam. We wanted to do something that would be memorable so that we would all leave here remembering her and her family and, just offering our support. So, Vivian.
Good morning and assalamu alaikum. I'm standing here today in my capacity just as one of many hundreds and hundreds of women on whose life Miriam had a profound impact. No more, no less, and I'm honored to have been asked to give a few words. Thank you to the Arab American Democratic Club and to the Zayed family. There are two groups of people in this world. Some who come into our lives early on, remain there for years, later disappear, and it was as though they never existed in the first place, irrelevant. Others enter our lives late in the game and leave quickly and prematurely. Yet they leave us feeling as though they have been with us for an eternity and really never left us. Miriam was the latter of the two types of people that I just described. She is no longer here physically, but it is as though she has never left us. As we rewind the tape of our lives and sit quietly and reflect upon our memories, it becomes apparent that we may have lost certain opportunities along the way that we will never be able to recapture. As we continue to watch that tape, we may realize that there were people in our lives who were undeserving and on whom we wasted precious time, and others who were deserving with whom we didn't spend enough time. Miriam was the latter. These are my own experiences and reflections upon Miriam. She came into my life early in my formative adult years and then disappeared, only to reappear later as a result of this great organization she helped build, the Arab American Democratic Club. It was as though there was never a gap in this relationship of ours. Now that she is gone, I cannot help but feel as though I should have spent more time in her company, learning and seeing the world in our community through the eyes of a woman who never grew tired or weary of the challenges she faced. She was kind yet critical, proud yet humble, fierce yet gentle. She was honorable, loyal, honest, respectful, compassionate, and dedicated to her community, both as a Palestinian Arab and a true-blooded American. Let us emulate these characteristics exhibited by Miriam while we still have time. Lost time can never be recaptured, my friends, and I cannot emphasize that enough. And it is only when we lose loved ones that we begin to realize that more and more. Do not take anything for granted. Our time in this world is limited. Much has been said about the life and legacy of Miriam Zayed, and there is really nothing more I can add to the words expressed by the distinguished family, friends, and colleagues who spoke before me. I have attempted to summarize my own personal experiences with a woman on whose shoulders I continue to stand. She paved the way for me, as did many other Arab American women. She paved the way for me and many other women in the Arab American community to pursue our dreams and challenge ourselves and challenge the status quo in order to reach our maximum potential. I cannot thank you enough, Miriam. May God bless you, bless your soul, and grant you the highest of heavens. Allah yarhamak, fa'lan kunti sitta sittat. Lady of all ladies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Miriam Zayed was very active in education, that we have one of the only persons to ever serve on the Chicago Board of Education, Anna Mustafa, who is here too. One day we're going to have an entire board of Arab Americans running the Chicago school system. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We appreciate it. Have a great day.